Okay, I think we're just about to go live here. Good afternoon. Yeah, we're live. Hi, Alejandro. How are you doing?
Hi, Megan. Great.
How are you feeling with co-managing 2 Zoom rooms, your mug and your hands, right?
Well, it's more than the Zoom room. It's a phone. It's a camera. It's a light. It's the camera being upside down.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm getting the hang of it.
Yeah, I know this is kind of your first, the other times that we've done drawing with you, you've basically had like things held up with straws and toothpicks. And so I made you get more professional for this one,
Yes.
which is only going to help you because I know you want to be doing more drawing online and in some like perhaps YouTube. So this is a good way. You just got to jump in there and do it. So welcome back. Good to see you. Last time we were together was September 30th in San Miguel de Allende for your Art of the Fountain Pen workshop. Let me make sure we're live here. Oh yeah, there we are. Hi. I'm going to have the Facebook over here, so I'm going to try to manage if there's any questions, right? So we're doing this live draw with Alejandro today as a follow-up to our fountain pen workshop, because there were a lot of people elsewhere who weren't able to be in San Miguel who said, hey, I want to be a part of this thing. So we're doing a little live draw with Alejandro today. So, okay, tell us all about you and your life, Alejandro. I'm just kidding. Tell us, what are we going to do? He said right before the recording, please don't ask me about my life because I don't know how to answer these questions, right?
Well, I can answer a few of them.
Yeah, no, we don't have time for that. So, but what we do have time for is tell us what we're going to be drawing today.
Okay.
And what
that's a good question. So we're going to be drawing the very famous, very traditional, and I'm going to put her right here, Catrina.
Yeah.
This is Jose Guadalupe Posada's most known work.
Okay, so the artist, the illustrator, his name was what? Once again,
Jose Guadalupe Posada, which is the easiest way to say is Posada.
Well, I want to say the whole thing. Jose, I forgot. What is it?
Jose, remember the Virgin.
Guadalupe. Okay.
Jose Guadalupe Posada, exactly.
Okay, Jose Guadalupe Posada. Yeah, okay, there we go. So he's the artist who created this Catrina. Tell us more.
Yes. Well, this was a piece. Posada used to do a lot of graphic work, and a lot of people think, he was this major, very well-known artist of his time. And the truth is, Posada was more of an illustrator for publications, newspapers, flyers, advertising, and he would get, all these petitions of, I need an advertisement. Could you do something very quickly? At the end of the 19th century and at the beginning of the 20th century. But he would also do these engravings to kind of make fun of Mexican culture.
Yeah. And was he in Mexico City?
Yes. No, he was in Aguascalientes. Well, he was born in Aguascalientes.
Okay, but his work was mostly here in Mexico City.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And because in Aguascalientes, he's the major, they have a once in a year festival and all of that.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. So this character is poking fun at the people in those days who were of indigenous origins, but wanted to forget or wanted to leave that behind, and they wanted to be part of the upper class and wanted to be considered almost European, because European was the fashion in those days. Yeah.
Even your Mexican president at that time, Porfirio, he was like a Francophile and just totally loved the whole French influence and everything.
Absolutely. You can see it in some of the buildings in Mexico City.
Sure, absolutely.
It was all French, French architecture, French fashion. And these hats were very much in fashion, French hats. Okay. And so he named her Skeleton I remember, I forget what you call garbanzo in English. I wrote it down somewhere. It's garbanzo is
The
chicken
bean.
chicken pea.
Chickpea.
Chicken
Chickpea.
pea.
Yeah.
So this is called in English, the literal translation of this character is the skeleton, the chicken pea skeleton, because it was somebody from indigenous origins who went from selling corn to selling chickpea, which was considered something, of a nicer product. So he's making fun of people who want to forget their roots, who want to forget they were indigenous and want to belong to a different class.
I mean, I guess that's sort of global, that sort of thing. But just having lived in Mexico, especially Mexico City, I see that there's a lot of that going on. Like I just drew the Teliche de Oaxaca, and that's all about trying to be someone who they aren't. Anyway, so what you're gonna draw? Well, she's better known as Catrina. So for today, we'll call her Catrina.
Yes.
You are going to draw, yes?
Well, she was better known as Catrina because much later, Diego Rivera, who became a big fan of Posada and this character, named her Catrina because the well-dressed men were known as Catrines in those days. So he named her Catrina, and he put her up in one of his paintings, murals in Bellas Artes. She's right there in the mural. Next to him was a boy, and next to Frida Kahlo on the other side, and then there's Posada. So the name Catrina was really made famous by Diego Rivera.
Yeah, interesting. And now we've got millions of people who dress up as her in Mexico, especially in San Miguel de Allende, right? There's even here in Mexico City, there's a Catrina parade on Sunday. San Miguel, it's next week. So she's quite popular here in Mexico. Like she's like a Mexican icon now, right?
Yeah, it's amazing because she's become the symbol almost of Day of the Dead.
She really has. Yeah.
And, you see her everywhere.
She's popping up all over the city, and I'm sure in San Miguel there too. So let's get, so you can, if you don't mind, you can talk about her more as you're drawing. What are you going to be using? So today you are going to draw your version of Catrina. And just to say, I have posted this image in our Facebook group so people can download it or draw, this, we want to encourage everyone to draw your own style, not to try to copy the photo as it is, right?
Yeah, right. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, Megan, because this is not about copying. Of course, we're going to take some elements. I will take some elements of this character that I love. We'll try to make it my own.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone who's joining us to do this exercise tries to make their own Catrina.
I'm a big fan of that. It's never about copying the photo. It's about doing your interpretation. In fact, if you get too attached to drawing from photos, you should be drawing from your imagination because really. Okay, so we're going to move her aside and I'm going to spotlight for everyone your drawing hands. There we go. Let's see.
Please ignore all the ink that is in my fingers. That is very common from somebody who uses.
That's all right. I mean, I think all artists have that. Can you move her out of the, she's in the frame up there in the corner.
Let me get her out of there.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Right. So this is Fabriano paper for watercolor. And I'm going to be using several inks and several fountain pens. And we're going to be kind of layering, but I want to show you guys how we can use 2 or 3 colors of ink, water-soluble ink, which is very important. And then when we apply water, how those mix together and we get some very nice texture, variation, contrast, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So we're going to start drawing this fine lady right here. And please feel free, loosen up. I know this is a print. I know this is you know, and printmaking is very hard, is very, it's not very loose, but we're going to try and do a loose interpretation of this.
So
Okay.
what I just want to say for anyone who is following along, you can go ahead and put that image that is in the continuous line storytelling group. You can have that on your, pull it up on another device, or, you know, on your phone if you're looking at your laptop, just so you can be following along to see how Alejandro is taking the very iconic Catrina and making it his own.
Okay.
Alrighty.
The first pen I'm going to use is one that caused a lot of uproar in the workshop. It's a Duke 551.
I love that one. I ordered it.
Yeah, look at this. It's just a monster pen, and you can do very big format drawings with this one because you have almost twice the size of anything else. And I'm going to be using an ink that I very much love, which is called Noodler's Golden Brown. And the reason it's golden brown, I'm going to show you, is because when you start working with it, you know, when you start drawing with Noodler's Golden Brown, the lines you get are in fact very brown. And the thing that I love about this pen is all the line variation you get. So we're doing a very loose Catrina here. And let me show you this. Let's start. I don't want to work too fast because I want everybody to enjoy this experience. So this, what I love about this ink is once you put it down, it looks very brown, yellowish. But the beauty of water-soluble ink is the moment you start applying water to it, you start getting other tones. For example, this one is named Golden Brown because your strokes are going to be brown, but when you put some water into it, you're going to get some gold.
Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
So that, before we keep working on all those shadows, what I'd like to show you guys is how we can mix these things. And for example, I would love to put, I'm using another ink here, which also all the people who participated in the workshop loved, which is Fire Opal Monteverdes, which is like an orangey, burnt orange. I'm going to put a little bit under the eyes, and other places, you might not notice it now, but other places where I would love for my Catrina to have a little bit of reddish, orangey, this sense of warmth. And
so that Fire Opal is in the ink, is in the pen that you're drawing with, right?
yes, this is
Okay.
a Pilot Kakuno.
So yeah, that just added a little bit of depth to the whole deal.
And exactly. And I just put in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a third ink. This is a Lamy All-Star.
Look at that. The most hated pen.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. the very controversial. So what I'm going to do is, again, just put a little bit, because this is a very wet ink. The one I'm using it right now is called Twilight, which is a kind of a bluish black. So I'm going to put it in here just a little bit because I want a little bit of dark here. And I want it to mix a little bit with this golden yellow. and with this red. So once we have those, when we start putting in the water, we're going to see some interesting merging of these colors.
Look
You're gonna
at
see
that.
this red pop out, exactly.
So you keep that, I'm not in the habit of using that water brush, but you keep that pretty handy as a way to sort of like build in the layers of,
Yes.
yeah.
So if you
And,
notice,
oh, go ahead, keep going.
if you notice, we have some golden tones, some round tones mixed in with a little bit of blue and a little bit of red orangey. Just to build some layers here. Doesn't matter if you have a little bit of stuff going on here, we'll go back in. The idea is to give this wonderful Catrina, some depth through these different colors, right?
The dimension, and what's also cool is it's pretty forgiving in that you're not worried about quote unquote being precise, because you're going to be doing adding layers. Like right now you're adding some dental definition, right? So you don't have to worry like, oh, I wrecked it, right? If you think you put a stroke someplace that maybe you didn't want to, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one of the things that I love about water soluble inks. It's very forgiving. You can do the lines. Once you put water on them, you blur those lines. So you're not stuck with, oh, that line was not perfect, or that stroke went off. Once you put water on them, it just becomes part of the whole thing.
Yeah. And you can just keep layering with, like, as you're doing now, that looks like another lammy, right?
Oh, yes. That's just a little bit of black, but I'm still layering here with the blue black or the teal, because I want it to have a little bit of other coloring there. That's dark, but I still want that reddish to show.
Yeah. I see it.
So, like you say, Megan, we are working on layers, and it's important to get to know a little bit of the inks. For example, this blue black or this teal that I'm using, this is diamine teal, which is wonderful when you mix it with gold like this. It's much wetter. So when you're applying it, you need to be very, what's the word that I'm looking for in English? Very cheap with the way you apply it, because you get a lot of blue.
So just very lightly is what you
Very
said.
lightly, exactly.
Yeah.
Apply it very lightly, because then it could eat up, the rest of your colors here. We might
it could take over things.
exactly. And here we see we might need a little more golden brown. So I'm putting in this, and the idea behind this, again, and the reason I loved so much when you and I started talking about this fountain pen workshop and idea, is that I wanted to show people. Everybody talks about fountain pens as writing instruments, or how beautiful certain inks are to draw. To write, but never to draw. And never to draw in this sense that you can get all these tones out of 3 or 4 inks.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, it's just, I know I told you to tape that thing down, but Is it taped down? Because can you move it closer to the camera? I did tell you to tape it down. If you can't, that's all right, because I'm sure that there's some detail that we're not seeing from this far. That's all right. You can just post it afterwards. I don't want you to change your whole setup, because
Okay.
you'll post this when you're done, so we can
Yes.
see how, like all the dimensions there, right? I can see the hints of the red, hints of the blue, the gold, everything. It's beautiful, and you've just begun. Yeah, I made you like move your whole setup, didn't I? Sorry about that. Oh, look at that. Yeah, now hold her steady to give Zoom a moment to look at that. Isn't, I mean, it looks old, it looks antique, it looks rotten,
Yes.
like Katrina was.
And that's the idea. It's the gold color is to give her a kind of old look, and then
Yeah.
the blue is to give her a kind of rotten, but the red is also trying to bring it alive a little bit.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. let me
Boy,
get-
isn't that lovely? And look at the teeth, right? They're not all white, they're kind of chippy, right?
So now we're gonna go work on her hat.
Well, hang on a second, because you kind of, I know I made you move it, but can you get her centered again? So we can see that, yeah, and now move it down a little bit more, because I know you're going to be drawing up there. That's good. That works, because I know you're teetering on the edge.
Yeah, I'm dropping pens over. Okay.
All
So-
righty.
So let's get to the famous hat.
Ooh, look at that.
And the hat, of course, has a whole lot of stuff. And let's try and keep it as simple as possible. I think the hat is the main, the main thing why this character became so famous. I'm just going to mark where that is.
Was that black ink?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just using black ink to mark it, and I'm going to use this very thick.
Back to the gold, huh?
Back to the gold.
Look at that. Beautiful. Look at those lines. Look at those beautiful, simple yet confident lines. Beautiful line confidence, right?
Oh yeah. And the thing about pen like this is, and ink like this, it gives you very beautiful shading, which means you will get darker tones and lighter tones when you use it. So one of the things in the fountain pen world that we look for, especially for artistic things, is how much does this shade? And we're always, and this is a pen that will certainly shade and give you all these colors. And then when you put water on it, it'll give you even more different tones and shading.
So I've heard you mention this before. Is this what you would, this gold, is it a very wet ink? Because it
Yes.
looks, yeah, okay. So this is I think that's a little confusing, right? When you say something is a wet ink, because it's all liquid, right?
Absolutely.
Some are wetter than others. Is that how you would say it?
Absolutely. And there are people who measure the viscosity of inks, and that's an important thing to know and experiment, because you might use an ink that you love and you want to do this to it. I mean, if you look at how much color we're getting out of it, because it's very liquid.
Yeah.
As soon as we apply, other inks are drier. So when you do this to them, you get much less color and tones out of them.
So say that again, when you do what?
When you apply water to them,
Uh-huh.
you get much less tones and even
You
reach.
push it around. You're able to push it around, spread.
Exactly. With a liquid one like this one, you're able to push it around, to move it, to shade certain things. There are other inks that are very dry, and like you said, it's very hard to explain, because even when I saw it in the reviews, people would say, well, this is a very dry ink. I don't like it. And I said, how can ink be dry? Ink is ink.
Yeah, that is, I think that's something that just you maybe start to understand with time and with experimentation,
Yeah.
right? Because it's still, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. Like, this is a wet ink. I mean, I can see that, like, with when you put that gold down, I could see the puddle of it. So I get it from that sense. Yeah. And
Yeah,
here you're going in with a different color now, right? Or is it, yeah, what's this now?
this is again the teal blue,
Teal.
and I went in with a little fire opal because
Oh.
I want again to get the same colors mixture. Look at the blue go here. I want to get the same combination that I'm getting in Catrina's face. So,
Yeah, that beautiful dimension.
yes.
So at this point, have you used 4 different colors? Black, opal, teal, and the golden one.
Yes, exactly.
4. Black, fire opal, teal, and the gold. What's the golden one called?
The golden one is called Noodler's Golden Brown. It's a wonderful ink because it's very wet, and it gives you all this range of very brown to very golden.
Beautiful.
That's a thing. If very golden is a thing.
I would think that if any watercolorist were to be looking at this, they would be saying, well, I'm a watercolorist, and I would be saying, boy, I wonder what color watercolors he's using here, right? Because that you're getting such a watercolor effect from these inks.
Absolutely. And that's the idea. The idea is that you get this watercolor effect, but sometimes you get certain things that you can't get from the watercolor that you do get from some inks. So for the hat, for example, there's and this is also an ink we looked at the workshop, and everybody loved it, I remember, was the Purple Rain Monteverde ink. And this is just a beautiful ink. This is really, really water liquid. So we can, we can just mark a few things here. And this ink goes perfectly with another one that's called Sapphire Blue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put a little bit more here. And then I'm going to mix them together. I'm going to start off with the Purple Rain, and then I'm going to blend it. See how bright it is, and then when we get to the Sapphire Blue.
Look at that. Look at the dimension you just got in those colors there. Beautiful.
I love it.
Can you move either your camera or the paper so we can see more of her head? We see a little too much at the bottom, and I would like to see more at the top. Other way, other way.
Other way.
I know you got to do everything backward. There we go. Because now you're probably going to be starting to work on our hat. We want to see what you're going to be doing. So
yes. So for the hat, I have so many pens here. For the hat, what I want to do is take a little bit of, I think this is a very close to fire opal, but this is called copper. Oh God, let me just cheat a little bit and say ancient copper. This is ancient copper ink, and I'm just going to mark a few things because this is also a very wet ink.
Be a little continuous line action going on here.
Exactly. And that's the whole idea here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, give Madame here. But as nice as this ink is, it's the The name is very adequate because it's a little bit like rusty, ancient copper kind of feel, but I still want to give it some depth with a little bit of blue. So I'm again going to take a little bit of blue just to put it here and here at the bottom, just maybe like a shadow.
Interesting.
And then I'm going to take a bigger brush here with water. I'm going to start on the side where
Nice.
where the ancient copper is. But look at when we get to the blue, we start getting some blending there. Same thing over here.
And so you don't even care if you're losing your lines because you're just going to be adding more layers with your pens.
Absolutely. In fact, I want my lines to blur or
Right. Yeah.
get the minimum line, because what I want is this. I
Right,
want
right,
this.
right.
And the beauty of it is you can go back in and say, you know what? I want to show these lines a little bit more again.
Yeah. So you just keep layering with the fountain pen.
Exactly.
Layering with fountain pen, fountain ink, water. Yeah, beautiful.
So like you say, Megan, I'm layering here. I'm trying to get, this is a slightly different color. This is called autumn oak. And you see
What's
it's
it?
a little more orangey.
Interesting. What's it called?
Autumn oak.
Autumn oak. Okay.
This is one of my favorites, actually. Autumn oak. It's perfect because it does make you feel like you're taking the color of the leaves and using it there. So for the flowers, I'm just going to go with black. I'm just going to start doing my own flowers here.
You're about to be out of the frame a little bit. Can you move it so we can see the top of the paper? There we go. Yeah, because I want to see what you're doing up here. And then, so
Sorry
this is
about that.
black ink. You're going in and just drawing some loosey-goosey flower petals.
Exacto. And even here, I'm going to draw some loosey-goosey flowers.
Yeah, I think she has flowers on her whole head thing, right?
On her French hat.
Yeah.
Start the hatching because she's got a lot of that.
Yeah, she does. Is she a lino cut? Is that what she was?
She's actually made in lead.
Lead. That's right. We talked about that. And there's been question if that's what maybe helped to kill him.
Maybe, yeah,
Or
caused his
living in lead.
demise.
Yeah.
For example,
suppose.
fill in these areas. I never like to go full dark. Leave
You mean
some-
like fully saturated? You like to leave a little like shadow, like what you're doing here?
a little bit of white, a little bit so you can see the strokes.
Look at that. Look at that. She's starting to come to life. This dead woman is starting to come to life.
So, see, I don't like to, meticulously cover everything. I
think that's part of the beauty of your work, is because if you really take a moment to look, and especially the ones in person, right? Like, it's cool to see your stuff online, but when you see it in person, oh my goodness, because you can see the dimensions, see the layering, see the different colors, right? And so what you're doing right now, that sort of work really, you can see it, right? Like it's what am I trying to say?
Well, I understand and it is hard to see when you're looking at it digitally.
Yeah.
But once and the thing that I love is when people look at it, then you see, oh, there's a little bit of blue here. There's a little bit of red and orange and all these tones merged together.
So with what you're drawing on right now, is that all dry and the ink is just going right on top? Or is there still a little blending going on?
It's a little bit wet,
A little bit wet, okay.
but not enough to get some, what's the word we use for that?
Some like spreading, some like blooming, fuzzing out.
And I'm gonna go now to, now that I have all my base,
Yeah,
and you can see the colors in the back, the blues, the golden, the reds, the orange, even some greens because of how they mix together. Now I want to go and start doing a little bit of hatching.
and you mean cross hatching, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you notice, she's got some lines, and they don't have to be the same as hers. I'm just giving an idea of how, for example, she doesn't have any here, but I love to put some in there. And of course, she's got a lot of lines here. And down here.
Yeah. So you've got a few layers of techniques going on, techniquing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just going over everything to give it some lines and give it, simple. I like to cross hatch this.
Yeah, look at that. I'm almoys kind of afraid to cross hatch, but you make it look so easy and effective.
No, I can't, it's like, what is this obsessive compulsive thing? I can't.
You can't stop.
Yeah, I can't stop. I can't, I gotta cross it.
Yeah, but I mean, just having been watching you and your art process over the years, it is paying off, right? I mean, I don't know about financially, but I mean, I know you're in a gallery now, and you're doing larger pieces and your layering, it's just almost, you posted that guy yesterday who has newspaper on his neck. You're doing some
Oh, yeah.
mixed media. That creature took my breath away. It was so rich.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
The purple from his face is this purple.
From that guy's face. Yeah. No, I know when you use that purple, because it's really it's a powerful purple.
It is. It shows up a lot. And here, what the idea is to give this. It's kind of the opposite of the original Catrina, which is black and white, very rigid. And what I want to do here is exactly the opposite. Is how do I show her?
Yeah.
As not as rigid, not as black and white. And for example, after I do all this cross hatching, I will go and do some crazy stuff like this.
Oh, look at that.
Just to get
Give some energy.
Some energy, some movement.
Ooh, look at that. I hope everyone is seeing what Alejandro is doing right now, because he's just being very loose with his lines to add energy.
Yes.
Wow. Bravo, Maestro.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look at that.
So this is when you go nuts. And you want your lines to be right off, exactly the opposite of what they told us in elementary.
Exactly.
Outside the lines.
This is not architect school.
Exactly. So you see, this gives it movement.
Oh my goodness. I'm getting excited because she's really coming to life. few people are even saying that online. It's very exciting to see what you're doing and to have it just happen in front of our eyes too. Boy, you could maybe work in a mall doing portraits or something. I'm just kidding.
You know,
No, but that is beautiful. Do you ever do any live performance drawing, or is this your first time?
I think I told you about this. The first time I did that was by, not by mistake, but without me knowing. I was in Florence in Italy and I was drawing in a cafe, and a couple of people came up to me and said, "Oh, how much for that one?" And
Oh,
I
yeah,
was,
yeah,
"Oh, okay. No. I was just, I was just sketching."
yeah.
But I would love to do that.
Well, I mean, look, you're doing it right now, right? Because you're showing, I think oftentimes when people see your work, it's like, do I dare say intimidating? It's a little intimidating because it's so impressive, right? It's very, all the lines and colors and textures. And you go, my God, how do you do something like that? Well, we're witnessing how you do something like that. And what is so lovely to see is it's not a lot of like, oh, wait, let me make sure I get this line just right.
Yes. It's not hard.
I mean, don't, let's not get crazy here, Alejandro. This is something that you have been working on for a number of years, and this is your craft, right? So you may look, what am I trying to say? It looks easy now because you can do it with such ease, but you practice every day, and this is what you've been doing for a number of years now.
Well, I appreciate that. The thing that I mostly want to say to people when they see something that intimidates them is make your own version of it.
Yeah.
And work up to whatever you want to accomplish with that. Because we're working on a version of a Catrina that's my version. It's much looser. It's not Guadalupe Posada's masterpiece, but it's my
It's
version.
your masterpiece, yeah. And that is interesting because that original illustration, if that's what it is that what it is? An illustration. It does look very rigid, right? Those lines are very precise. The cross hatching is not, it's not loosey-goosey, but it does have kind of there's a looseness to it, but it's different. It's not like what you're presenting right now, where it's really just the name of the game here is just to like get her done and just float with your lines, roll with your lines. Don't try to like be too controlling, right?
Exactly. And for example, she's got some clouds here that give her some movement.
Look at that.
And I love that. And now we need to work on something inside her hat that looks that's not completely dark, but helps us get to, let me see. We could use we have so many colors that I find this.
Not much time. Take your time there, Alejandro.
I'm trying to get her to maybe, let's use some more dark blue to give her to contrast.
So your whole thing here is in that original illustration, it's black underneath her hat. And so you want to do something where you're, first of all, doing this in your style and just adding some dimension with color and line, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I don't want it to be as dark under her hat. We might be able to give her some color under there. I'm mixing the blue and the golden again.
Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
A little bit to frame her face. And I'm stealing a little bit of it.
Yeah, look at that. Beautiful.
So we are aware that we need a little more color up here. So a little more purple rain.
Can you move your hat, the paper down a little bit? Not your hat. So we can see what you're doing. up there? Yeah.
I thought, what hat?
I know. You move your hat, please. Yeah, so you're just hitting that with a little of that purple ink and then hitting it with water, right?
Yes, and I'm gonna use again the sapphire blue to get some contrast up here with we're contrast and to blend it with the purple here. And we haven't tried, and this is an example of a dry ink. We haven't tried the sepia that was also very well liked. But I'm going to put a little bit here. And I'm going to put a little bit here. This is the sepia, and you're going to notice it doesn't run as easily. Well, this one does. I think it put too much water on it. But it's not as liquid as other.
I see. So you have a limited time to push it around because
Exactly.
it's not going to stay wet too long. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here, even when this dries or kind of dries, you can go back in and say, you know what, this yellowish golden part, I'd like to, put some things in there. This sepia there might help it
Yeah.
give it a little more life. So I'm putting in a little sepia there on the
So,
bottom.
Just to give you a few comments here, Liz Blair in San Miguel is watching, and I don't see too much of her anymore because she's all about her, she is illustrating her books, right? So she has this
Oh
very
yeah,
fountain penny, inky, yeah, she's got a lot of favorite fountain pens, but she just commented, but I've never used them with water soluble ink. So she's excited to try this, right? Because she does use a lot of fountain pens. And so
yes.
this is really just like, I don't know that there's, what do I know? But I don't know that I've seen this sort of technique before, right? And it's so cool to see it come to life.
It's something that as a fountain pen enthusiast, you start playing with, and then you say, wait a minute, I love the shading. You start with black and you start shading with black, the normal stuff, make a drawing and then shade it by putting some water on it. But then you start asking yourself, what happens if I do, and this, for example, this is another Catrina that I worked on before this one.
Uh-huh.
So, you every time you can get a different result. Let me see. And you can start saying, well, I want, this is autumn oak, this is blue. I can play around with these and maybe 3 colors and define my style of illustration, or a certain palette of 3 ink colors can define what I like to do.
Do you ever use watercolor or no? At this point, are you all inks and watercolor? And fountain pens?
Well, it depends. For example, here with this Catrina, what you can do is, you have all this movement here. You can put some very nice bright colors here with watercolor.
Oh, yeah. That's right, because you have done things like with acrylic paint to use that to get like a heavy, very deep saturation, right?
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to show you what can be done on copy paper, because I wanted to show, because a lot of the things that I hear are, oh yeah, but I love fountain pens, but I like to work on copy paper. And
Wait, hang on, Alejandro, before you jump to this, let me just look at Catrina. Are you done with her?
Well, yes, I'm thinking of if I should put something around here, maybe.
Well, so what I want to say is, yes, you have a little time to do that, because I would love to see you finish this. And then if you want to do a little something on the copy paper, that's great, unless you were letting her dry, but I don't think you were, because you were setting paper on her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Give me 1 second because I need to
Yeah,
find.
if you could just, like, just bring it on home, and then we can, quickly do one of your, whatever you were just going to show us.
I want to find the pen that I have. Oh, here it is. So the other thing is, I want her to have a little bit of blue close to her. So I'm using the sapphire blue, which is a brighter blue. And you notice, this is what you were saying, Megan. I don't really care how my lines go, because the minute I put water on these, they're gonna blend. Not completely.
Yeah,
but-
I think this is what's so interesting, is like I think very few people would think, oh, let me take a fountain pen so I can get a little shading here, right? So I can get a soft color.
And imagine these little things that you're left with are also very nice. The ones that don't disappear with water, but those lines that kind of linger there also give you a nice texture. These lines here.
Yeah.
And on this side, same thing. It gives you, it doesn't leave it flat. It gives you those little lines that didn't disappear with water, give you something very interesting. So
Yeah. Because look at that. She's popping in a whole different way now, isn't she?
yes.
And you can just keep going with the layering, right? Like, we're not going to go on all day here. We're going to keep this to about an hour. But you could, and I think it's kind of your style, is just to keep going with the layering, right?
Oh yeah. I can keep putting lines here, here, just a little bit more movement.
Do you ever go too far?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Unfortunately, more often than I,
Really?
yeah. Well, sometimes I go too far. I say, I would love to have kept it simpler.
Yeah.
In this case, I think this is as far as I want to go.
Yeah, that is. And, just doing that little hint of a background there, really just, it's so beautiful. And so, oh, where's she going? Is she coming closer to us? Bring her closer and then hold her steady so we can, to give Zoom a moment to just, look at that beautiful line work. Hold her steady there, Alejandro. Hold her steady. Beautiful. You're moving.
Oh yeah, I know.
No, but that's beautiful. And you will share that in our group, right? Because look
Yes.
at that. Isn't that
For
beautiful?
example, this is what I wanted people to look, how you first got the cross hatching, but then if you go a little crazy with the cross hatching, you can get some interesting results.
Yeah, so you're also being a little quote unquote precise with the lines, but you're also being a little crazy with the lines too. It's a nice combination of just your creative expression, right? And look at, I think it's some sort of lace or something like that hanging around, and just very simply cross hatching and not even caring if it's correct, quote unquote. Beautiful.
Yeah, same with this.
Yeah.
I love that the lines are way off from the color, because it gives it movement, it makes it more interesting. And you have, for example, this, a little bit of sepia there, you can hardly see it, but it blended with this blue sapphire and then with this purple.
Yeah, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I would imagine that's even more dimensional in person. And so what I would love to have you do is, like, you know, when you're ready, please share that finished drawing, painting, so we can see it. And then we'd like to invite everyone to do their version of it, right? Using fountain pens, but use your watercolor. Well, you know, it's not about, oh, you have to use everything that Alejandro just used, but just to try your hand at an expressive line stroke, right? Being just like your style of being, to create a Catrina who's very forgiving. She's not like she's a person and has, you know, she's not no, she's kind of anatomically correct, right?
Well, and the thing you were saying about the watercolor, and we kind of briefly discussed it, is you can do watercolor, let it dry, and then you can go in with certain pen ink colors and do the same thing we did with the red or with the blue, and it'll make your certain areas of your watercolor pop. So that's another way to mix these things together, and that could be another conversation we have.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we'll, now that I'm moving to Guanajuato, hopefully we can do some more workshops together, maybe even in Guanajuato, get you over there to meet Hugo, who you haven't met, your long lost cousin yet.
My long lost cousin.
But and ideally do some online demos here too, just because I think, you know, not to reveal the magic of your work, but I think a lot of people are curious, like, how do you do that thing you do, right? And so this is a nice way to share your art. Yeah, you're welcome, Elaine. Thank you for being here. Thanks everyone for being here. I mean, what is it that you wanted to show us, Alejandro? Is it something kind of simple? Because I would do kind of.
Yeah, just very quickly, this is copy paper. So a lot of people are always saying, well, you know, fountain pens don't really work on copy paper. And I always like to tell them, well, it depends on the pen, on the copy paper, and how much water you decide to use. This is another one of my purple characters. Just a very quick face. But if you know, this is a very, very wet ink, and this is copy paper. So I hope everyone can see this. Yes. And then we had a little yellow left from the last one, which looks kind of good when it mixes with this purple. But if you see, it's very forgiving.
Yeah.
Even with certain very cheap paper, you can.
Well, Alejandro, I mean, I know that that's easy for you to say that it's forgiving it. I mean, you do make this like very easy, right? It's very much your style, and it's very like almost haunting, right? But it really does come with practice. Like the more you practice this, the cooler the scribbles look, right? Wouldn't you? I mean, I would agree. I'm agreeing with myself.
Yeah, and you're right. You need to practice being loose, which is exactly your thing. You know, how loose you get and how much you're confident with your strokes is a lot of.
Yeah. So, and well, anyways, that's a cool little demo you just did there. And we are going to wrap this up for now. We are at right about an hour, which is good. We'll do this, we'll revisit and have you come back here. What I'm going to ask you to do though, Alejandro, is in the comments under this, when we get offline here, is if you, I mean, you have all your materials right there. Just post just in the comments, the pens you used and the ink.
Okay.
You know, and this may be the list from when we did our workshop. So if you don't mind doing that, that way people have an easy way to see what it is we use today. But this will also be available in YouTube, and I'll copy that over there. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you, Yoli. Bill says thank you. Elaine says thank you. Carolyn, hello everyone. Yeah, so a nice turnout. A lot of your friends, a lot of our friends here.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time, Alejandro. And we will see you next time. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Share
And
your
thank you
drawings.
everybody who logged in, if that's the word, to watch.
Logged into AOL. Yeah, and maybe if you could just take a look, see if there's any comments, and then you can respond to that, right? So, you know, build your community there, Mr. Okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The comments are on Facebook, right?
They're in the Continuous Line Facebook group. Yeah.
Okay, you got it.
Continuous Line Story Facebook group. That's where we'll all be. Okay.
Okay, you got it.
Okay. Gracias, Alejandro. Bye.
Gracias.
Bye.